ladies and gentlemen, something happened a while ago which left me devastated. And today I'm going to tell you what that is. By a show of hands, how many of you have ever traveled in a metro? Thank you. Do you know the feeling, right? Wake up at 8 instead of 7, throwing caution to the wind when it comes to traffic, or maybe pollution, or even timings for that matter. You have a metro train every 3 minutes. You sit there peacefully for 20 minutes, a cup of coffee in your hand, and a sandwich in another. You know that pleasure, right? But guess what? The moment you bite into that sandwich, the moment you take a sip out of that cup of coffee, you become a social evil. You become an antisocial element, a demon on a metro car that I'm here to eradicate today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to speak about people who consume hot beverages in a drink. Like, gone are the days where people used to be just going into a metro car and sitting there, plopping themselves down, throwing caution to the wind, as I said earlier. But now, thanks to these business owners who keep coffee kiosks right outside the metro car, you have people bringing in hot lattes, espressos and cappuccinos right into your private space. And guess what? As much as I'd like to commend these people are the real social evil. And I will be talking about them today. But before we get any further, I'd like to make one thing very clear. No matter how explicitly I may describe a person, no matter how accurate details I may give, I'm not talking about Toastmaster Harshit. Either ways. So let's begin with my rant. One day, while traveling, long ago, I met this traveler, a 60-year-old man with a cup of coffee in his hand. He was coming with all his swagger, throwing his weight around in the car as he plopped himself down and set his cup of coffee aside. Then there was this elephant of a boy, filled with joy, strolling around the car. And when he came to that old man, first, he kicked his leg. Second, he kicked the cup of coffee. But guess what? Ladies and gentlemen, the next 5 minutes, the 5 minutes of that metro car were the best moments of my life. 80 people getting up, frantically getting around, trying to salvage whatever was left. Coffee coming over, them trying to take their shoes out, them trying to take their, bags out of the way. But the damage was already done. 2 pairs of canvas died that day. May God rest their soul. And 2 beautiful bags, handbags of women, got ruined because of that scalding hot coffee. And guess what? It doesn't matter, even if the man had not put his cup down and realized that way earlier. Because as it happens, later that day, I was traveling with another uncle. I tend to travel a lot with uncles. Yeah. This man was a 40-year-old. He sat beside me and tried to sip his coffee. A grave mistake, let me tell you. Because what he didn't consider was that the train tracks were not always smooth. And so, the kinks not only caused the perpetual humping that takes place in a train, but every time he tried to sip his coffee, he ended up start painting my trousers. And ladies and gentlemen, see the result for yourself. These used to be white chinos once upon a time. And then these bloody millennials I say, take these atrocities to another level. Guess how? I once saw this man again. This guy was 20 years old. He had a phone in one hand and a steaming latte in another. He plopped down and started reading an article in his iPad. Wait, that was me. Never mind. But you get the point, right? You don't want to be sitting next to that maniac. Nobody needs that kind of pressure in their lives. Nobody needs that kind of annoyance. Nobody does it better than these idiots on a metro train. I see that one person got the reference. Nevertheless, assume that all of this went well. Guess what happens next? How many people here have actually seen a person carry an empty mug of coffee? An empty mug of coffee. Very few, as you can see. Because why? Why, Toastmaster Vishnu? Do you think that happens?
Generally, dustbins are available.
But not in a metro car. And that is the biggest problem with these maniacs. They tend to stuff it into corners of seats and into my backpack. And Toastmaster Anish, please stop doing that the next time. Because this annoyed the hell out of me. There was a neatly pressed shirt in my bag, and when that coffee leaked and seeped into the inner lining of my shirt, guess what? That day, I missed 2 interviews and missed the Mr. Perfect of the day, specifically when I wanted it. So, ladies and gentlemen, any questions regarding this? Anybody? Would anybody like to ask a question regarding what I said so far? No! Who is that raising their hand? Like seriously. Everybody knows that these are idiots. These are nincompoops who cannot even act on their own. They're hobos in a car. They're, hooligans in a metro. And guess what? You will be right if you say that. And even the parliamentarian would be able to do anything. Because I speak the truth. Let me now conclude this by saying one simple thing. How many of you think that this has a solution? Nobody thinks this problem has a solution? Cool. I met with 20 professors from 5 different institutes and 7 different IITs. And guess what? I boiled down on the conclusion. I boiled down to one solution which guarantees a 100% rate of not actually making you spill coffee on people, your fellow commuters. And do you know what that is? It's simple. Don't take coffee when you get on board. By simply taking coffee after you get out of the train, you avoid the risk of spilling it onto people like me who wear white jeans on a hot day. And you avoid the risk of making a fool of yourself and adding to the social problem. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to leave you with only one thought in your mind. The next time somebody offers you coffee before getting onto a train, you say no. The next time you have a coffee in your hand and somebody asks you to take a sip out of the dirt bucket, right, when you're on a train, you say no. And the next time you see somebody get into a train with a coffee cup in their hands, you
say no.
Thank you.